Thank you for tuning in today for another program of Glory Bound. We are here to share the gospel of Jesus Christ through the preaching of God's holy word and Christ-centered music. Our desire is to encourage and uplift those that need a special touch from our Savior. Join us now for another blessed program of Glory Bound.
Hello and welcome to Glory Bound. I'm Elaine Harding. Thank you for joining with us today. Today, to start our program off, we have Beth Smith, and she's going to be singing that song, People Need the Lord.
Every day they pass me by, I can see it in their eyes. Empty people filled with care, headed who knows where. On they go through private pain, living fear to fear. Laughter hides their silent cries, only Jesus hears. People need the Lord. People need the Lord. At the end of broken dreams, He's the open door. People need the Lord. People need the Lord. When will we realize that people need the Lord? We are called to take His light to a world where wrong seems right. What could be too great a cost for sharing life with one who's lost? Through His love, our hearts can feel all the grief they bear. They must hear the words of life only we can share. People need the Lord. People need the Lord. At the end of broken dreams, He's the open door. People need the Lord. People need the Lord. When will we realize that we must give our lives? 'Cause people need the Lord. People need the Lord.
Thank you, Beth. You know, today in our world, there's not very much trust, is there? People do not trust other people. Why? Well, so often they say, well, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that, and never carry through. They don't do it. But you know, trust ought to be an attribute of a Christian. If you say something, then do it. Carry it through. But you know, there's one person that we can trust. We can fully trust the Lord Jesus Christ. And today that's our subject, is trust. With us, we have a special guest. We have Donna Strong with us.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
All the way over here from Hamilton. And Donna, her and her sister used to travel and they sang. And they have retired. And so in her retirement, God has led her to write a book. And the book is Trust. Okay, total reliance under stressful times. And you know, that's something we can learn. Every Christian can learn to trust. It's not always easy. We can trust God. He's dependable. But so often it's like, well, you know, it's not maybe going fast enough what we want done, or, you know, we think we can do it better, but we need to trust God. And, you know, no matter what you're going through, what situation you're in, we need to just stop and look to Him and trust Him. He knows. He has the plan. And we got to be patient. And that's the problem. We're all of us are impatient. Let's be honest today. But anyway, this is what we're going to talk about. Donna's going to talk about her book today that she has written. It's basically about her life.
Yes.
And how she has learned to trust God. And I thought this would be great. Hopefully this is an encouragement to you. Because you might think, oh, you don't know my situation. Well, you know what? We all face situations. I've got a situation that I'm working through, but I got to trust God through it. Not easy, but trust Him. There's a purpose. There's a purpose for the way what happens, things that happen. So now I'm going to turn this over to Donna. We're going to start. Well, I thought, you know, let's do a round table thing and just talk about this book. And so, Donna, I know this is basically, you start when you're growing up at home.
I do. I start with the day of my birth, 64 years ago. And actually, I start a little before that in the introduction, talking about the fact that my mom had 5 miscarriages before I was born. The doctors told her she would never carry full term, and they wanted children. So they went to God for that. And it was tough, losing 5 at about a 6-week time in pregnancy. A lot of people out there probably have been in those situations, but yet they knew the God that they served. And they knew that He wouldn't have given them that desire if He weren't going to follow through with it. So they put their trust in Him, and lo and behold, I was their first one, and 3.5 years later, my sister came along. And she always teases and said they had to get it right, and when they got her, they stopped because it was perfection. I'm not real sure about that, but God knew what He was doing and teaching my sister and me through our parents, through what they went through, because we heard about it growing up, that they had to put their trust in God for that. And then He did come through, and then the ministry came into fruition in later years. So it was all a part of God's plan. But again, that patience, and I'm not the most patient person. I'm going to put both hands up for that. You know, we see things, I'm a very type A. I have things that I like to figure out. And, okay, God, well, this would work well doing it this way. And then sometimes He's just up there shaking his head going, let me take care of it. Don't try and be God for me, you know. But we want things.
Mm-hmm. And we want it now.
Yeah, we do. We do. And so I've had to learn through the years in various situations of my own, am I going to really trust God? Am I going to say what I've sung about for so long? And through this journey, one of the things that I was really thinking about as I was writing this book is that some of this is faith as well. And so where does faith become trust? You know, because they are very interconnected. And so I was thinking about it one day and I thought, Lord, what is the difference? And all of a sudden it struck me, faith is believing God can, trust is knowing He will.
That's good.
And I was like, wow, that is a difference. So we've got to have that faith first and foremost in the Lord, in our walk with Him, but then we have to walk out that trust and know that He will do what's best for us and be patient waiting on it.
So you've had to practice what you sing.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, practice what you preach. I think that's the title of a song
Yeah,
out there
yeah,
somewhere. But
yeah.
yes, you do. And, you know, it's a daily experience. It's a daily walk. We get up in the morning and we just are expecting our day to go great. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. And no matter whether we're having a beautiful day or a wonderful time, we've got to always know that He's the one we need to look to and trust in whatever situation. Even in the good situations, we still need to be trusting Him.
So you were raised in a Christian home,
Yes.
and then as you're growing up, you and your parents had a ministry of your own, singing.
Right.
You come from a talented family,
Yes. We were very blessed. Very blessed.
but you had different issues that you had to face growing up
Yes.
at home. Just because you're a Christian family doesn't mean things go perfectly well.
It doesn't.
You
It
know, no
doesn't.
problems or
Right.
anything.
Right. Yes. The largest issue that we had as a family, I talk about in chapter 6 of the book, and that chapter was probably one of the most difficult chapters to write, because it was not only a hurt from people that we trusted and that we knew they were Christians. It was the pastor of the church where we attended. And at Brenda being 16 and I was 20, honestly, we could have said, if this is what Christianity is about, I have nothing to do with it. And we could
And
have
you know,
walked away.
I think Christians are hard on other Christians. I sometimes harder than the world.
Yes, yes, yes. And it was interesting because through that situation, there were people who weren't in the church that were more helpful to us and more kind to us than the people were in our local church. And so it was a very eye-opening experience. And it was right at the time that the Lord was dealing with my dad to get our family out ministering away from our local church. So had we not had that foundation, that firm foundation from our parents to walk in that, it could have been a totally different story.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I read the book and I get it, that situation. That is tough.
Yes.
And, you know, unfortunately, that happens so often today. Oh, my.
Yes,
You know.
it does.
So,
It does.
you know what? Got to get the book and find out.
Yeah, gotta find out what chapter 6 is about. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and interestingly, my husband, when I was writing the book, and I was making sure he agreed with things that I wrote, you know, after our marriage and things, and he asked me, he said, after putting all of this down on paper, is there a part of you that, gosh, I wish that hadn't happened? And I said, well, probably, but the things that happened in my life made me the person I am today. And I probably wouldn't be as trusting of God if I hadn't gone through all of those situations. You know, at 6 weeks with each of my kids, I experienced spot bleeding, and I thought, oh no, am I going to deal with what mom dealt with? My son at age 9 was diagnosed with epilepsy, and a lot of section 2 is about how we as parents had to trust God through all of that. And we were traveling.
Yeah.
We were traveling, and there was one time when I came home from a 2 or 3 week trip, and I got in on a Monday evening, and I saw some paperwork, and I said something about, what's that? And Douglas is like, oh, that's the paperwork they gave me after I got out of the hospital. And I was like, what do you mean got out of the hospital? Oh, didn't Dad tell you? I was like, no. And so about that time, my husband came from work, and I said, we were just having a conversation, and he's like, oh, well, he said, yeah, he had a seizure that was like 10 minutes long. And so I called the squad, and they got him there, and they took care of him. And, you were traveling, and I was in North and South Carolina at the time. And he said, there's nothing you could have done being that far from home. I took care of it. You needed to be concentrating on ministering.
Okay, now you're jumping ahead. I want to go back.
Okay.
Go back
Before that.
before you get married, okay?
Before I get married.
Okay. You had a goal that you wanted to be married by 25,
By 25,
correct?
I did.
You missed that goal.
I missed that goal, yes.
God didn't come through for you, did he?
He didn't.
But he
when
had somebody
came
special.
through,
Yeah, so you
oh
tell
my.
us about that.
Yeah, I had this goal of wanting to be married by the time I was 25. Mom was married when she was 27. And so I thought, well, 25, that's a good age, And I woke up that morning to get ready for work. I wasn't married. I wasn't engaged. I wasn't even dating anyone. And I found 4 gray hairs. And I was just ready to go back to bed. And I honestly thought about it, but I had something at work that was due that day. So I plundered forward and got to work and had 2 different birthday cakes and cupcakes and cards and candy and, all of that. And it turned out to be a good day. But God knew that my husband wasn't in a position at that time to be ready to get married. So, it was almost 4 years later when that prayer request was answered. And looking back at the people I dated, I talk about a couple of the guys that I dated in the book, and oh my, if I had married them, God help me. It would not have been in God's plan.
Yeah.
And I had to wait for that.
And God did come through.
He did.
But it was in
big
his
time.
timing.
In his timing.
And at the time, you think, oh, where are you, God? But when you look back, okay, and you see how he was working,
Yeah.
then and that's how we grow.
It is how we grow. And, we can always see when we're looking back. When we're in it sometimes is the difficult time.
Very difficult.
Very difficult. And yet, if we can just keep our focus on God rather than the circumstances around us. I even wrote a song back in 2001 called Willing. And the chorus says, willing to do whatever you ask, trusting you'll enable me for such a task, looking to you and not the issues around me, willing to work for you faithfully. So even through a song that God gave me, he was still teaching me about trust and being willing to wait on him.
Okay, so now you got married, and your husband was musically inclined as well.
Yes.
So
yes.
Hey, you've got music all in your family.
Yes.
So then you got married, and you had a son. Now we're going to come up to when you had Doug.
Yes. Yes, he was born in 1994. The pregnancy went well, except for that spot bleeding at the 6-week period. And he passed all of the APGAR scores there at his birth. He was 8 pounds, 12 and a half ounces, 21 and a half inches long. I mean, good, big, bouncing baby boy. And all of his visits to the pediatrician, he excelled in everything, way ahead of schedule. But when he was almost 9 years old, it was on Mother's Day, 2003, of all days. And we normally went to a get-together at our pastor's house. The guys would do all of the cooking for the moms and the cleanup and everything. And he loved going there because there were lots of kids and they had a big backyard and everything. And so that year, because our church had grown, they couldn't have the get-together. Well, he was livid. I mean, just so upset and just could not understand. We could not calm him down at all. Then a couple months later, we went to a swim and picnic party at my husband's sister's house. He was disobedient with anything she would tell him to do, and she called me and she said, this isn't like Douglas. And so I told her about Mother's Day, and I said, I appreciate you calling and letting us know. And then school started, in August, and things just started going downhill. And he was lying, stealing lunches from other kids' lunches and lying about it. He'd say, I need to go to the bathroom, and they'd say, okay. And then he'd go somewhere else, and he'd be gone, and they wouldn't be able to find him. And it was a small Christian school. And so, new teacher, bless her heart, and she didn't know what was going on. And it was to the point that they actually, for 13 days, he was at home, and they were sending his work with our daughter, and we were doing work at home and sending it back. And because he was so disruptive, she couldn't teach the class. And then things started manifesting outwardly that were happening inwardly with the extreme bad behavior. And he wouldn't hear us when we would talk to him, and he would be like he was daydreaming. And one time we were in the van, and he just decides he wants out of the van, and we're driving down the road, and I hear this noise, and I turn around, and he's opening the sliding door of the van while it's moving, and I grabbed his left arm and just held on for dear life. And then he didn't remember any of this. And it turns out the seizures were taking place in the brain, but they weren't manifesting outwardly, and it was all connected. And decision, judgment, and reasoning were the areas that were being affected, which totally explained the bad behavior. So it's been a journey. He's 31, and he's still on anti-epileptic drugs, medications, but he is doing so much better. He went through brain surgery at age 14 at Cincinnati Children's, and they couldn't do the full surgery because his brain shifted due to fluid buildup. He was the first patient ever there that was there for resection surgery that didn't have the resection done. I was like, well, he made history, I guess, somehow. But so we went through that. He has a VNS, a vagal nerve stimulator, which is like a pacemaker for the brain that was implanted in 2020. So it's been a journey for us, but he's been on 19 missions trips.
Wow.
He loves the Lord with all his heart, and he can walk up to anyone and share the gospel. Some of those missions trips that he went on in the beginning were down to Panama City Beach, Florida, and they would go along the beach during spring break, and they would just witness to the spring breakers. So I'm so proud of how he has not allowed this to stop him from doing what he needs to do. It's scary sometimes, you know.
Well, something like that, you never know when all of a sudden you could have a seizure.
Exactly.
I know we have a grandson that never had a problem, nothing. And then just it was actually a Sunday morning. Everybody's getting ready for church, and I think he was a junior in high school. And all of a sudden, a seizure hit. I mean, of course, our son and his wife, they had no idea.
No idea.
All they knew is they called 911
Yes.
and got him over there to the hospital, and to find out, it was an epileptic seizure. And, because they got to figure out what's causing this, and they got to decide what can, the medication and things like that.
Yes.
I mean, it can go on for a little while.
It can.
And they find, I mean, they've got him pretty much where he hasn't had any. And but actually he did. One thing about it, they got to keep, I think, and this is probably for most people that have it, they have to keep their stress level down.
Yes. You feel like you're walking on eggshells sometimes.
And they got to get their rest.
Yes.
And everything.
Yes.
Where a lot of times your young people, hey, they want to go. They want to be like everybody else. I want to be up till midnight, 1 o'clock, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And they really can't.
Can't.
And because then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a seizure could happen.
Yes, and that is exactly what we have seen. Douglas will get together with his friends, and I've said now, you've got to realize you have got to get your rest. He actually needs about 10 to 12 hours rest a night, which is not easy to get. And yes, he has no idea the seizures are getting ready to happen, no inkling in his body whatsoever, and then he doesn't remember them. once they have occurred. So, he went to a Bible study with some friends a few weeks ago, and I get a phone call on my cell, and it says Doug's cell. And so I answered, and I said, "Hi, Doug." And he said, "This isn't Doug. This is whatever his name was." And I'm like, "Oh, no." And he said, "We were just sitting here at Skyline Chili, and all of a sudden, he started having a seizure." And it was the first time that group of friends had seen that. So they called 911, and I said, "Well, my husband is on his way home. I'll have him, meet you there and everything. But when 911 gets there, tell them, family is on the way, because they're just going to take him to the hospital. They're going to give him Ativan. They're going to send him home, and then we're going to get a bill," because that's exactly what happens. And so we have some Ativan that we keep on hand that if it's a really long seizure, we can give. But I've learned so much medical that I really, in part, wish I hadn't learned. But again, this wouldn't be out there because this is what the Lord told me that needed to be out there to help people and encourage people where they are, whether it's with themselves or family or friends, that God, when you put your trust in Him, He will come through for you.
And now he's being used
Yes.
for the Lord. Which that is, it's great. So often people will just, I can't do anything, and have that attitude. Well, you can.
Right.
God can use you no matter what.
Exactly.
And be a witness to somebody else that maybe is going through exactly what you're going through, and it's encouragement
Yes.
to you. Okay, I know we're running out of time. Time always seems to fly. But I know after Doug, you had a daughter.
Yes, Andrea, 2.5 years later.
Okay,
Yes.
so you've got, what, the perfect family,
Yes,
they say,
that's what they say,
son
yes,
and daughter,
son and
so that's
daughter,
great.
yes,
And
yes.
she's married.
She is married.
You're
She's
not
been
a
married.
grandma yet,
I'm
right?
not a grandma yet. I have 3 grandkitties.
Oh, kitties, okay.
Yeah, they've been married 7 years. She and her husband are both 28 years old, so they got married young. We love him. They just last month moved to Wisconsin, so now they're 7 hours away. So that's a little adjusting now, and but
So they got
that
married
happens.
young. Well, you know what, they were, you know what, I know it's a different world today, but I got married young.
Mm-hmm.
And hey, 62 years.
Yes,
So,
and
you
you've
know,
had a good one.
I had an absolute
Yes.
great
Yes.
guy.
Yes.
So, you just work at it.
That's right. That's right. And
You
we're
know?
thrilled. We knew the minute we met him. The minute we met him, Keith said, "I don't think it's a matter of when or if. I think it's a matter of when."
When.
And for him to say that about his little girl, that was pretty amazing. So we love him dearly, and we're excited for their new adventure. His company moved him from the Dayton, Ohio office to the corporate office in northern Illinois, and so they're living in southern Wisconsin now. And
Got up where it's
So.
colder and more snow. Huh?
yeah, but bluer skies too. So
Yeah, I guess. I'm up north. This is far enough north for
Far
me.
enough north, yeah.
So I've been there, done that when we got transferred up to Western New York, and
Oh.
with snow. So
Yes,
Indiana's not too bad.
No,
Yeah.
no, not too
Well, I know we only have a couple, 30 seconds left. So let me encourage you, go to a bookstore or wherever.
Amazon,
and it's
Barnes
called,
and Noble.
Yep, okay. It's called Trust by Donna Strong. Okay? I'm telling you, you may need this just for encouragement if you're going through something. That's what the book is all about.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
She had a lot of trials and things like that growing up. She came through it. God brought her through it.
Right.
And now, and you see the blessing, of it all. He had a plan.
Yes.
And so until next week, bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Glory Bound. We hope you have enjoyed our program. If you have made any decision for Christ today or have any special prayer requests or questions, please contact us at 765-935-1435 or email us at hbcglorybound@gmail.com.